Okay, I think we are live. Can you guys hear me? Because I've been having some technical difficulties today. Yes, okay, we're good. So, and most importantly, we've now got the Andrew, Givz and Nicole, Givz. It was pointed out to me that I had Andrew parentheses Givz, and now we've fixed that. So that's the type
I'm
of
sure
really interesting stuff you're in for here today in the next 10 minutes. No, we're really excited to have Christal Earl of Brave Souls here. Ever since I met Christal, I've just been inspired and awed by what she is building, the authenticity and genuineness that pours out of her is just fantastic. I'm so excited to introduce her, hear about, Christal, how'd you come up with Brave Souls? Tell us, start to finish, how did this all come about?
Okay, so lovely to be here. Thanks for having me. So I started Brave Souls in June of 2017. So I, until that point, so for the 10 years previous to that, I was living between Dominican Republic and Toronto. I was caught in a weird immigration crisis with my daughter, who was born in Dominican Republic, and who I started an adoption when she was 4 years old, and she was denied a visa for 10 years. So I ended up living between the two countries. Long story, but all the time during that time, though, I was also working with landfill workers in different parts of the world, but in particular in Dominican Republic, and helping them, working alongside of them, because recycling happens as a private enterprise really around the world, and it's done by many of the world's most vulnerable people. And so when you're in the landfill, so often you start to see a lot of things. So you know, all the obvious things that you find in landfills, but then if you actually stop and take notice, you start to realize that things actually reach their end of life before they reach their end of use. Like so much of what we use and consume, it's in like a closed loop system. So we consume it without the thought of where does it go after, because it's out of sight, out of mind. And so that's where I started to realize one of the things that was happening was that tires were everywhere in the landfill and in the ditches and tragically in the waterways, like most of the world actually. And we produce, more than 2 billion tires a year are produced and consumed. And if you think about the idea of a massive tire and it gets one little tiny pinprick in it, or a little part of it shreds or something happens, and it's no longer deemed usable. Like if you think about the crazy closed loop of that, right? So I just started to think, and this was bothering me. And then one day my neighbor came out of her apartment from across the courtyard from me, and she was wearing these really cute pair of shoes. And I did the girl thing where I was like, whoa, I love your shoes. And so we started talking, and she was just wearing this beautiful pair of sandals, and they were leather. And so I said, can I see one? And I'm holding it and I'm looking at it, and I flipped it over, and I was just looking like at the whole sandal. And when I saw the sole, I mean, the sole just had, it was just like a plasticky kind of sole. And she had just come back from Cuba, and they were handcrafted by someone there that she bought them. And it was like a lightning bolt on the side of the head, where I was like, oh my goodness, why did I not think of using the tires for the soles before? And so that just led me on this whole adventure of things. But I was a single mom living between two countries. And I knew that if I was to do this, I was going to have to figure out a way to make it the absolute most minimum viable way to launch it, because I didn't have any extra money. And I launched Brave Souls with $250. Literally, I had really nothing in the beginning, like actually nothing. And in the beginning of our model, when you would buy a pair of shoes, if you put in an order, Edwin, the guy that was working for us, will get in a boat. Every day you take the new orders, get in a boat on a rope across a river in the outback of Dominican Republic, and he'd hand the order to the team that was making our shoes. We were working with professional leather workers, but they were in this little village in the outback. And so that's how everything started, and had a lot of crazy hard lessons along the way, but we've managed to still be here. So it's pretty exciting.
What a story. I mean, it comes through to what Andrew said, like it comes through to the heart of your messaging, the heart of your product.
Yeah.
We follow you on Instagram, and I feel like I've gotten to know you more through that as well. And thank you for sharing this story. I think that it just speaks to like I said, just the true soul of your brand. And that's just wonderful. And we want to see you continue to grow. And we're so glad that you've partnered with us. And you, I would say, like one of our OGs, one of our OG Givz
Yes, somebody's OG list. That's amazing.
100%. Yes. And we are so grateful to you for that. It means the world. And honestly, we've learned a lot through you too, quite frankly. You've given us a lot of our best practices. We see what you do and we're like, we love that message. Like, oh my gosh, I need to write that down.
Wow,
That's fantastic. You know, so you've set the bar. And we really appreciate that. So with that being said, would love to dive in a little more. I actually I actually have a question for you regarding your sustainable Sundays, I believe is what you call it. So every Sunday, Christal does a live and talks about something special on Sustainable Sunday. And I just would love to hear like how you started that and I know you've talked about our partnership together there and different causes that you're featuring for that specific time.
Right.
You do such a good job of sharing not only bringing your customers into the giving mission, but of saying this is why we've selected these specific charities and these specific causes, and then tagging them. And we've seen some really great interaction with them and your brand too. So yeah, I just would love to hear a little bit of your thoughts behind that.
Yeah, so the Sustainable Sundays started, I launched it about 7 months ago, I think, and it was in response to thinking about, for a couple of reasons, how could we get in front of more people organically, but not just to get in front of them, to actually give them something. You know, there's something when you say that you're a brand that values, that has whatever values you have, you really do yourself, your customers, you truly serve your customers and your future customers if you give them something that is actually going to add to their life, like rather than just like buy our stuff. Everybody can say that, and they're going to make their choices in the end. But when I launched Brave Souls, in all honesty, I saw sustainable fashion as the vehicle for me to give people more ideas of how they could make their choices matter and to learn the power of their choices. That's really, truly the mission of why I started. And so the Sustainable Sundays were a way to take from the questions that people are asking us and that continue to ask us, and to think about like what's going to serve them. So some weeks we talk about things happening in Brave Souls. Sometimes some weeks I've just talked, and it's just been like wherever I've gone. So I remember last fall I was visiting my parents out in Western Canada, and my parents, their home is on a river. And I learned something about what climate change was doing to the water and to the fish in the river outside their house. And so I was like, let's talk about that. Like, these are the things that the average person just never considers. And, you know, when you think about a topic that is interesting and that is a common thing that the people that follow your brand would probably be interested in, then it gives you endless amounts of content. And so, and I think that we have to remember that there's something magical about storytelling. Like, we are an entire race of humans that has been built on stories. So stories are not going anywhere. Like, you know what I mean? They're not going to be somehow become like untrendy or anything like that. Stories are powerful, and they are really the way that we connect on a human level.
The art of storytelling.
Yeah.
And you do a good job. I was just writing something you said down right then. I swear every single time we talk, I always like grab a few things that you say.
That's cool.
Learn the power of their choices. That really stuck with me. That's wonderful. Well, a couple other things before we wrap. Would love to just to hear about, if you wouldn't mind sharing, is being one of our OGs, your journey with Givz and you know, takeaways that you have that would be helpful for other brands, purpose-led brands to know about. So.
Okay, so I talk about Givz to everybody, first of all. So I talk about you behind your back all the time, FYI. So I was, and it's interesting, right? Because like the ancient poet Rumi says, that which you're seeking is also seeking you. And so one day I had been thinking for a while. So on our website, if you go to our website, we have like the tire ticker that talks about how many tires we've managed to save with our customers. But I wanted something that was also going to put the power back in our customers' hands. That would give them the opportunity. It wasn't just, I didn't want to say, you know what, we give 10% to charities or whatever, like just to say that seemed, that wasn't, I don't know. It doesn't do enough to move me. I don't think when I see that for people. And it wasn't, and the other thing, and I will just be honest about this, is that when, when you're standing in checkout, there's a coffee company which will remain unnamed, popular Canadian company, that asks when you get to the till, sometimes you get asked, do you want to donate to our fund that has our name on it? Yeah. That is going to help these kids. So then you're like, oh, now I'm a jerk and all these people are in line behind me. If I don't donate to your kids fund that your company has its name on, I'm somehow going to feel bad about that. And I don't like that model because number one, they're the ones that are getting the glory. And number two, they're asking me to go above and beyond something when I've already invested my money into their product. Like, isn't the whole point of having their name on their company to do that? So I didn't want that, and there was no solution that I could find. And I had been on other sites where they asked, do you want to add something on here to give? Well, sometimes yes, because if it's something that's close to my heart, I do, but that really wasn't why I wanted to do it. And so I heard Andrew talk on, was it E-commerce Fastlane? I think, Andrew, I heard your podcast.
I think it was.
I think it was. And
thank you, Steve.
Right, that's awesome. So another true confession, I listen to podcasts in the shower. So I'm like, I remember listening, like, oh my gosh, I gotta remember the name of this company. So as soon as I got out of the shower, I wrote down the name, and I think I reached out to you actually shortly after I heard the podcast. And what I love about Givz, so there's lots that I love about Givz. I love your team, first of all. You're so lovely to work with. But I love the fact that you guys do a great job of letting us know about upcoming everything from upcoming events, global events to national events or whatever that we can highlight, and charities that you're highlighting. But it gives us the opportunity to talk about charities that we're highlighting too. And when someone goes through and they finish a purchase, and let's say they're now at the checkout on Brave Souls and they've bought that pair of shoes, I want them to know that they can make a choice that's not going to cost them over and above, but it's something that they could be interested in. So number one, I like that we can highlight charities talking about in our circles. We can highlight charities that we want to talk about, but then in the end, it's just like, you know what, you choose the charity that's something that you want to get behind, and it's given us also lots of content. It's given us ways to connect with those charities, like what you were saying, Nicole. We've been, I think it was Meals on Wheels and a couple other charities before the holidays that we were back and forth on social media with, and that to me was really, it was really awesome. And I will say one more thing. We're a Canadian brand, so this gives us the opportunity, even though you guys are American, not even though that sounds terrible, we love Americans, but the list that comes up is charities that are registered in the United States. So the way that we deal with that as a Canadian brand or an outside of America brand is that we always highlight charities that are globally working, that are listed on there, so that our Canadian or Australian or European customers can still connect with something that is that's relevant to them. So it's just been, I don't know, it's just been so great on so many levels. So I'm just super grateful to have found you.
Thank you, and we're grateful to be partnered with you. Thank you so much for all your support.
Thank you.
Well, this is amazing. I think we got to wrap on those kind words, and we really appreciate you, Christal. I think I did that podcast with Steve Hutt probably, I think, before our Shopify app even went live. So you were like, you contacted us right away, and we were like, oh, that's why one of the first people on the app just almost 6 months ago now, which is crazy. And we are so honored to have you as one of the OGs. So again, please check out Brave Souls. It's Brave Souls, BRAVESOLES.life. BraveSouls.life. The link is in is in the LinkedIn Live here. Check it out. Christal's amazing. Their stuff is amazing. And you'll get 10% back to give to a charity of your choice that you care about when you buy. And that's the whole thing. Of course, DM Nicole or I anytime if you want to get started with Givz. If you have any questions, anything, please feel free to hit any of us up, and we'll talk soon. Christal, thanks so much for coming on. We will certainly have you on again with a follow-up in a couple of months. Let everybody know how it's going.
My pleasure. Thank you guys. Have a great time, and thanks for all that you do. It's really important work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.